The Mediterranean Grill restaurant occupied a prime corner in downtown Seattle, known for serving the finest Middle Eastern cuisine in the Pacific Northwest. Every Thursday evening, it hosted an exclusive business dinner for a select group of investors and entrepreneurs. On this particular Thursday, 6 members of an investment consortium sat around a private table in the back. Led by Khalid Al-Rashid, a self-made real estate mogul from Dubai, the group represented over $2 billion in combined assets. They met quarterly to discuss charitable foundations and community investments, having made their fortunes and now seeking meaningful ways to give back. Khalid was reviewing construction plans for a youth center when the restaurant's front door exploded inward. The crash of shattering glass caused every head to turn. A small figure stumbled through the broken entrance, tripping over the threshold and falling hard onto the tile floor. It was a boy, no older than 9. His Superman t-shirt was ripped down the middle. Both knees of his jeans were torn and bleeding. His sneakers were untied, laces dragging behind him. Tears carved clean paths through the dirt on his face, and his chest heaved with panicked breathing. "Somebody, please!" he screamed, his voice raw with terror. "They're killing my mama! Please, you gotta help!" The restaurant fell into stunned silence. Waiters stopped mid-stride. Diners froze with forks halfway to their mouths. Background music played on, incongruously cheerful against the boy's desperate cries. But while other patrons sat paralyzed, uncertain how to respond, Khalid and his 5 associates pushed back their chairs and stood immediately. Khalid reached the boy first, moving with surprising speed for a man in a $3,000 suit. He knelt down, ignoring the dirt and blood that would stain his tailored pants. "Breathe, young man," Khalid said, his accented English calm but commanding. "Tell me where." The boy's finger shot out, pointing through the broken door toward the apartment complex across the street. "Building C, 3rd floor, apartment 312. My mama's new boyfriend and his friends. They're hurting her so bad. Please, sir, please." Khalid looked up at his colleagues, 5 men who'd built empires in tech, finance, real estate, and manufacturing. Men who'd faced down hostile takeovers, survived market crashes, and navigated international business wars. Their eyes met his, and 5 heads nodded in unison. "Ahmed, call emergency services immediately," Khalid ordered, standing up. He removed his suit jacket and handed it to the restaurant manager. "The rest of you, with me." The boys started to follow, but Sarah Chen, the only woman in the investor group and a former federal prosecutor, gently but firmly held him back. "You stay with me, sweetheart. Let them handle this. What's your name?" Deontay, the boy stammered. "Deontay Johnson. Please don't let them kill my mama." "They won't," Sarah said with absolute certainty. "Trust me." The apartment complex was one of those aging buildings where rent was just low enough to trap people who couldn't afford anything better. Peeling paint, broken security gates, and trash scattered across the parking lot told a story of neglect and resignation. Apartment 312 wasn't hard to locate. Loud music blared from inside, punctuated by male laughter and a woman's muffled screaming. The sounds of furniture being knocked over, glass breaking, more screaming. Khalid didn't knock. He tested the handle, found it unlocked, and pushed the door open with controlled force. The apartment was small and filthy. Empty beer bottles covered every surface. The air reeked of cigarette smoke and marijuana. And in the center of the living room, 3 men surrounded a woman on the floor. She was curled into a protective ball, arms covering her head while they kicked her repeatedly. "That is enough," Khalid said, his voice dropping to a tone that had silenced boardrooms full of arguing executives. All 3 men turned. The largest one, clearly the ringleader, was wearing a tank top that showed off prison tattoos covering both arms. He grinned, revealing gold teeth. "Well, well, look what we got here. Bunch of rich boys in fancy clothes think they're gonna save the day? We are not here to debate," Khalid replied evenly. "Step away from the woman, now." The ringleader, whose name was Travis Kane, laughed and looked at his 2 friends. "Y'all hearing this? Aladdin over here thinks he's gonna tell us what to do in my girl's apartment." He took a threatening step toward Khalid. "She's my woman, and I do what I want with what's mine. You rich foreigners need to mind your business before." He never finished the sentence. Khalid moved like water, smooth and inevitable. One moment Travis was advancing with his fist cocked back. The next, He was face down on the floor, with Khalid's knee pressed against his spine and his arm twisted at an angle that made his friends wince. "I served in the Emirati Special Forces before I made my first million," Khalid said quietly, applying just enough pressure to make Travis gasp. "I assure you, this is a conversation you cannot win." The other two men started forward, but they found their paths blocked. James Morrison, who'd played Division I football before building a tech empire, and David Park, a former Marine who now ran a private equity firm, stepped between them and the struggling Travis. "I really wouldn't," James said pleasantly, though his 250-pound frame delivered the real message. Marcus Okafor, a Nigerian-American shipping magnate, moved immediately to the woman on the floor. "Ma'am, can you hear me? My name is Marcus. You're safe now." The woman, Shanice Johnson, uncurled slowly, her movements stiff with pain. One eye was completely swollen shut. Blood dripped from her split lip. Her right arm was cradled against her ribs in a way that suggested they were broken. "Deontay," she whispered through damaged lips. "Where's my baby?" "He's safe," Marcus assured her gently. "He's the one who got help. Very brave boy you have." Fresh tears spilled down Shanice's battered face. "He shouldn't have had to see this. He shouldn't have had to run." "But he did," Marcus said, carefully helping her into a sitting position, "and he found exactly the right people." The sound of sirens filled the air within minutes. Seattle PD rolled up with 2 patrol cars and an ambulance. Detective Lisa Rodriguez stepped out, taking in the scene with experienced eyes. A woman clearly beaten, 3 men being restrained by what appeared to be businessmen in very expensive suits, and a broken apartment door. "Someone want to explain what happened here?" she asked, though her hand stayed near her weapon as she assessed potential threats. Khalid released Travis but remained ready to restrain him again if necessary. "A child ran into the Mediterranean Grill begging for help. He said his mother was being assaulted in this apartment. We responded and found these 3 men attacking this woman. We intervened and called your department immediately." Rodriguez had worked domestic violence cases for 15 years. She'd seen enough to know the truth when she heard it. She looked at Shanice being loaded onto a stretcher, at the bruises and blood, at the terror still visible in her one good eye. "Ms. Johnson, do you want to press charges?" Shanice looked at Travis, who was glaring at her with undisguised malice. Then she looked at the 6 men in suits, strangers who'd walked into danger without hesitation to save her. "Yes," she said, and her voice was stronger than it had been in months. "I want to press charges for everything." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Travis Kane, you're under arrest for assault, battery, and—" She looked at the other 2 men. "You 2 are also under arrest as accomplices. You have the right to remain silent." As Travis was led away in handcuffs, he shouted back venomously, "You're dead, Shanice, you hear me? I got connections. I'll be out tomorrow, and when I find you—" "No," Khalid interrupted, his voice calm but carrying across the parking lot. "You will not." At the hospital, Khalid and Sarah found Shanice in a room on the 4th floor. Deontay was asleep in a chair beside her bed, exhausted from fear and adrenaline. A doctor was just finishing his examination. 3 broken ribs, severe bruising, possible concussion, and a fracture in her left wrist, the doctor reported quietly in the hallway. "She's lucky. Another few minutes and we might be having a very different conversation." When Shanice woke, she immediately started crying again. Not from pain, but from overwhelming emotion. "He'll make bail," she said, panic rising in her voice. "Travis knows people. His cousin runs a bail bonds place. He'll be out by morning and he knows where I live. He knows where I work. He knows Deontay's school." Sarah pulled up a chair. "Ms. Johnson, my name is Sarah Chen. I'm a lawyer and I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. But even if it does, I promise you, you and Deontay will be protected." "I don't understand," Shanice whispered. "Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Khalid, standing near the door, spoke. "Your son showed remarkable courage today. When he was frightened and desperate, he trusted us. He looked at 6 strangers and believed we would help. We answered his call. We will not abandon that trust now." The next morning, Khalid called an emergency meeting at his downtown office. His 5 business partners arrived within the hour, along with 3 additional colleagues from their wider network. "Shanice Johnson and her son need protection," Khalid began without preamble. "Travis Kane will likely make bail within days. When he does, he will come after them. She has minimal savings, no family support in Seattle, and nowhere safe to go. "What are you proposing?" asked James Morrison. "Complete protection and support. We find her secure housing, provide financial assistance while she recovers, ensure her son's safety, and make it crystal clear that touching her again means dealing with all of us." One of the newer members, a hedge fund manager named Richard, frowned. "Look, I'm sympathetic, but we're business investors, not a protection service. We all have our own concerns." "That child ran to us," Sarah said sharply. "When he needed heroes, he chose us. We can't betray that by walking away now." David Park nodded. "I've been thinking about this all night. We have resources most people can't imagine. Money, connections, legal power, security expertise. What's the point of having all that if we don't use it when it really matters?" The vote was unanimous. By Monday, the story had gone viral. Millionaire investors rescued domestic violence victim played across every news outlet. The security footage from the Mediterranean Grill showed Deonte's desperate entrance, showed the immediate response from 6 men in suits, showed them emerging from the building with Shanice safely away from her attackers. Public response was overwhelming. A GoFundMe campaign, started by restaurant owner Hassan Mahmoud, raised over $75,000 in 3 days. Enough for housing, furniture, legal fees, medical expenses, and a substantial safety net. Khalid's team found Shanice a 2-bedroom apartment in a luxury building with 24-hour security, key card access, and cameras monitoring every entrance. They paid for 6 months' rent up front. Sarah Chen personally took on Shanice's legal case pro bono, filing restraining orders and ensuring maximum charges against Travis and his accomplices. The investment group established a trust fund for Deonte's education, ensuring he'd have money for college when the time came. They also connected Shanice with job training programs and eventually helped her secure a position at a eBay nonprofit organization that assisted domestic violence survivors. Deonte drew pictures for each of his rescuers, using colored pencils from his new art set. He gave Khalid's to him personally. It showed a tall man in a dark suit holding a shield in front of a woman and child. "My hero" was written across the top in careful letters. Khalid, a man who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals without showing emotion, felt his eyes water. He cleared his throat. "This will hang in my office, Deonte. I will see it every day and remember why success means nothing if we don't use it to help others." 5 days later, exactly as predicted, Travis made bail. His cousin posted bond, and Travis walked out of King County Jail at 9 a.m. But when he tried to find Shanice, he hit walls everywhere. Her old apartment was empty, lease terminated. Her phone number was disconnected. Her new address was unlisted in a building where security wouldn't let him pass the lobby. Her new employer had strict policies about protecting employee information and a legal team that made it clear any harassment would result in immediate legal action. And 6 millionaires had made it known throughout Seattle's underground networks. Approach Shanice Johnson or Deonte again and face consequences that go far beyond legal trouble. People who owed favors to Khalid and his partners spread the word. Travis Kane was radioactive. When Travis tried filing a harassment complaint, claiming the investors had threatened him, Detective Rodriguez actually laughed. "You assaulted a woman in her own home in front of multiple witnesses," she said flatly. "These men stopped you from potentially killing her. That's called being good citizens, Mr. Kane." Complaint dismissed. Realizing he was beaten, Travis eventually left Washington state entirely. Last anyone heard, he'd moved to Arizona, finally understanding that Shanice Johnson was completely untouchable. Shanice started her new job at the Empowerment Alliance, a nonprofit helping domestic violence survivors find housing and legal assistance. Her supervisor was impressed by her dedication and lived experience. "You understand what our clients are going through," her boss said. "That's invaluable." Deonte enrolled in a private school near their new apartment, his tuition covered by the trust fund. On his first day, Khalid and James showed up in a Mercedes to drop him off, not to intimidate, but to send a clear message. This child has protection from people with resources and resolve. The other third graders thought it was amazing. Deonte smiled all day. 1 year after the rescue, the Mediterranean Grill hosted a celebration dinner. Shanice stood to speak publicly, her voice steady and strong. A year ago, my son ran through those doors begging strangers for help. These 6 individuals didn't hesitate. They gave us our lives back. They showed us that wealth means nothing unless you use it to help others who can't help themselves. Deontay stepped forward, holding a framed painting he'd worked on for weeks. It showed 6 figures in business suits standing protectively around a woman and child, with light radiating from them pushing back darkness. The words across the bottom read, "Real heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear Armani." He handed it to Khalid. "For your office, so you never forget you saved us." The restaurant erupted in applause. Khalid knelt down and pulled Deontay into a tight embrace. "You saved yourself, young man. You had the courage to ask for help when it mattered most. That courage changed everything. Never forget that power lies within you." Sometimes the bravest cry for help interrupts an ordinary dinner. What begins as a business meeting among colleagues transforms into a rescue that changes lives forever. Real heroes answer calls they never expected to receive, and true wealth is measured not in dollars, but in lives protected and futures secured. The 6 investors never sought recognition for what they did that Thursday evening, but they never forgot it either. Because sometimes the most important investment you can make isn't in property or stocks, it's in another human being who simply needs someone to believe they're worth saving. And that investment always pays the greatest returns.